this book got the band together that hadn't talked in this many years, la la la. So the whole book, I was like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe, like I wonder what Camilla thinks.
I know. It feels very fulfilling, which is like so modern agent coded, because I'm like, yeah, that's called your personal brand. Like that's called having a life and like romanticizing your life.
So when we say it's not just about content, it's not just about Instagram, it's not just about whatever, like it's not. It's about the business you're building as a result.
How do I get more leads?
How do I stand out in my market?
Is it unprofessional to talk about my kids on Instagram? Should I have one account or two? Do I really need a personal brand as a real estate agent?
We are the Modern Agent Marketing Girls. We are two agents turned marketing experts who believe you can become the go-to real estate girl in your market, all because you are you. I'm Chelsea Peterson, founder and CEO of Modern Agent Social Club.
And I'm Kayla Fox, Modern Agent's content creator. Let us be your guide as we talk about what it means to market your real estate business the modern way.
So refill your favorite beverage, open your notes app, and get ready to build a business and a brand you're obsessed with. Let's go. Hey, Kayla, welcome to Book Club.
Book Club for the Modern Agent Marketing Girls episode. I love Book Club.
Me too. Look at my YouTube. Oh, here.
Oh,
where is it? Oh, my Book Club candle.
Oh, that's so cute. It's very on brand for you.
I actually got it from Kate. Shout out to Kate. She is in my book club and brought it to me when I hosted. I'm like, oh my God. I never bring hosting gifts, but I really should start. She inspires me.
Didn't you put that candle in one of our member shoots too?
This is actually only the second time I've lit it. It's just, I'm so obsessed. I don't, like when you have a candle, you don't want to light it because it's like so pretty that you're like, yeah, I light it, it's gonna like get ugly, but whatever.
That's so funny. I love it.
Okay, so we're both in book clubs. So I've actually been in a book club since I was like 19 years old. I was a receptionist part-time in college at the same company that my mom worked at, and my best friend Lauren, she still works there to this day actually. And we joined one with like all these older ladies who were all like the receptionists and like that department, and it was so much fun. And then that one kind of fizzled out. Like actually it lasted probably for over 10 years, but then that one kind of fizzled out, and then we started our own, like of just a bunch of friends. And then I started a second one, which I think I've talked about before multiple times, but with Allie Sweezy, who is one of our members. And now I'm in two right now. And you started one, or you're in one?
Yeah, so we started one too. So actually I was real motivated to do it. One of our members, and I don't remember who it was, but one of our members talked about how she and her friends started a Lazy Girls book club, which really intrigued me because my thing is I do like to read. I only really started reading a lot last year. Up until that point, I was always reading like just business books, like what we're talking about today, because to me that was like the only way I could justify it not being a waste of time because I'm like such an Enneagram 3. But I started reading more like last year because I learned like, oh my gosh, like it really does like spur on creativity, and like it is a good outlet, and it's good to have something for yourself. But my thing is I don't want someone to tell me what book I'm going to read, because if I don't like it, then I'm not going to spend my time reading it. And so this whole concept of like a Lazy Girls book club is everybody reads whatever the heck they want. And then you just show up and then you just share what you've been reading. And so it's been really fun because there's about 10 of us that meet like regularly every month. We all take turns hosting. And it's like pretty laid back. Like we usually have like some fun like charcuterie stuff things, but usually it's just like from Aldi. There's no like set theme. Most of us are in sweatpants. And our husbands all make fun of us because they are convinced the only reason we're getting together is to drink wine on a Wednesday. But
so are our husbands. It's the same.
Right? They're like,
like
okay,
a nationwide thing.
Exactly. So, but we really do talk about books, and it's been fun because we all like, we'll just bring what we're reading and we trade and all of that stuff. So, I've loved it just because I'm still able to read what I want to read, but then other people in the group can do the same thing. And every once in a while it's like, hey, that does sound interesting. I'll borrow that. So, so I'm a big proponent of Lazy Girl Book Club.
I like the Lazy Girl Book Club idea because I feel like between my business, between reading business books, podcasts, having a kid, like everything. I don't have a ton of time to read, and I feel like I'm always reading my book club book, which is fine. I love it. But I'm like, sometimes I'm like, oh, I can't start this book I really want to start because I have to read the book club book. So it does like diminish what I personally would choose to read for sure. But I think it's fun and it's worth it. But maybe I'll like suggest that down the road if like one of the book clubs feels like it's just like falling apart as far as like no one's reading it. But everyone's like really good about it, and like we're pretty themed. We just had one Friday and read Daisy Jones and the Six, which is, I know we're like really late to the game here, but it was.
I just finished it too. I thought it was so good.
So good. Like I would say one of the best, probably top 5 books that I've read, just because it was so different how it was written in like an interview style. I thought that was so cool. I thought was like, this must have been a lot of work for the author to like write it that way, but also made it really, really fun to read.
Oh yeah, definitely like top 5. It was not what I expected. Everyone kept telling me it was so good, and I had no idea it was like interview style, which then like it was written so realistically that I literally Googled like, is this real? Like, I'm so confused. I've never heard of these characters, and then realized that it wasn't. But there's so many like real life references and like Rolling Stones and all of that it made you start to wonder, like, wait a minute. But and now we're trying to finish up the series too. We've been watching it on, I think it's on Prime. And even my husband's like, okay, I can see why you liked this, but it's a little different than the actual book. But it's been fun to actually hear the songs and hear their voices, and then it like, I don't know, really makes it come to life. I want like the soundtrack. Like I think it's so good.
The book was written so realistically that like the author's note, which I thought was a real author's note, said this book was, got the band together that hadn't talked in this many years, la la la. It was a fictional author's note, but I read it as if it was real. So the whole book I was like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe, like I wonder what Camilla thinks.
I know.
So anyways, we're not doing book club on Daisy Jones today, but we are doing book club on the 12-week year, which is the one that we just did with our members. And it is written by Brian Moran and something Lennington. Why does it not say his last name on here? I wanted to like
Michael Lennington.
Michael Lennington, thank you.
Yes.
So it's really about discarding annualized thinking. So no more planning for an entire year, which makes so much sense because, statistically, a lot of businesses do a lot of business in the last quarter of the year because everyone's trying to like hit their deadline, hit their goals. And like a deadline makes everyone work a lot harder. Like if you've ever had a deadline for like trying to get a paper done by a certain time for school or college and you're up till 4 a.m, you get it done. You just do. And so this whole purpose of this book is to kind of force yourself to work in a deadline, but not for a whole year because it's just too long. And instead to give yourself these mini New Years, which they don't call it that, but I call it that. I've given this book some of its own terminology just because I can't with the dry things men write, but I love men. I just don't like how dry their writing can be. But I think, so what it says is the 12-week year presents at minimum 4 times as many opportunities to recognize and celebrate your progress and accomplishments, but it gives you that much opportunity to get things done and checked off because you have way less time to get it done. So it just brings so much more focus to whatever it is that you're doing. And Kayla, we've been talking a lot about how like our members and also just, real estate agents, they're entrepreneurs. And I feel like a lot of times, like, it's just such an easy industry to get into that I know for a fact not every agent treats their business like a business and not every agent acts like an entrepreneur. Like, for example, I saw in a Facebook group recently a post that said, a real estate Facebook group, it said, like, what side gigs can I get while I'm waiting for clients to call? And I'm like, not an entrepreneur, like, that's not an entrepreneurial mindset. But what I love about Modern Agent is like our members have that driven business mindset. Like I am running my business like a business. I'm taking this like seriously, like I'm in control. Like I'm the one who has to create my success.
Like this book gives you no leeway for excuses. Now it doesn't say that if you set all of these goals and you just do all these things, you're just going to meet them all. But it actually specifically talks about how the goal is to set realistic goals, to score yourself every week to keep track of your progress and to hit 85% of your goal. So it's not written in a way that there's no grace, that there's no room for life to happen. But if you actually stay focused and if you are only doing the things that actually are going to move the needle, you will see results. And I think that's what I loved about our whole discussion in our group. What's so cool about that for us is like it allows them to really bring their marketing to life because they're no longer posting the trending audio reel just because, well, that's what's trending and I have to get it done. Like, is that going to reach your goal or not? If it's not, then you don't have to worry about it. Now, it doesn't mean you can't ever have a little bit of fun and just loosen up. But like, if you actually stay focused on these things that matter and these things that are actually going to move the needle, your results are going to like be insane.
It makes yeses and nos super crystal clear, which I love because there can be so much as an entrepreneur, like gray area of like, well, I do have time to do that, or that is a good idea. And all of a sudden, here you are completely sidetracked because you're like, well, I have plenty of time. And this is like, no, you have 12 weeks. And the book talks about how like execution is so much more important than the plan, which is really not anything like groundbreaking. But more than 60% of the time, the breakdown occurs in the execution process. However, people usually assume it is the plan at fault and they change it. So like, put this into perspective. You join Modern Agent and you're following the plan, and 3 weeks in, you're like, shiny object over here. I saw an ad, or someone in a Facebook group said I should do this, or I got an email about this other thing that's going to change my life, or here I can buy these leads. And now you abandon the plan of whatever it is, not even Modern Agent. You abandon your plan and you go do something else, and you're never actually executing the plan.
Right.
If you're not executing the plan, you can't tell me that a plan did or did not work, regardless of what it is. If you only knock on 5 doors and you abandon the plan, you're not going to get results from that. You have to knock on probably 700 doors, which is why I could never choose that route.
Yeah.
But I like I like that reminder, because like with anything, like it just prevents you from getting sidetracked. Like, Kayla, remember I came up with that rule and I was like, we're not doing any trends unless they were planned the month prior. This is my rule. Because there's always trends. Like, social media is full of trends. But if you live by your trends, number one, you're not really building a brand. You're building copy trends. You're like another version of that same trend that went around. And there is a time and a place for trends, and we teach that and at Mask and all of the things. It's not that you can't do them, but you do the ones that align, that already work with your brand, that already make sense. It's not just about replicating what someone else is doing for the sake of a trend. Like, we're not trying to go viral. We're trying to build really successful businesses here. Yes. So when that's the case, if that's your goal, you can't be subject to like changing your plan every other week. Like, you have to stick to the plan and stay on the path.
I love the quote in the book where someone who had implemented the 12-week year, he had said, "This cannot be the flavor of the month for me. This must be a lifestyle change that I continue to develop and perfect." And I loved that. Even like, you think about anyone who's listening right now who maybe the whole idea of like this modern agent marketing is completely new to them. You know, it's so easy to get super excited about it and then feel like, oh, is it really working? And like what you said, shiny object syndrome hits and all of that. No matter what you're listening to, if you're listening to us and you like our style and you want to go for it, or if there's another like real estate coach that you're like, no, that's my jam, stick with it at least for 12 weeks, if not 24, because I think that's where the magic happens. If you're constantly changing, or if you're constantly switching things out, you're not, like what you said, you're not giving yourself any time to see results from the plan that you've put in motion.
Well, I think it goes back to that question of like, are you running your day or is your day running you? And I think like when we're really honest with ourselves, a lot of times we are letting our day run us. Like we are like constantly refreshing our email, constantly responding to text messages in the moment, constant reacting to our business. And there has to be some level of that in any business, because you're part customer service in whatever you're doing. You're part, responding to contracts, whatever. Like, yes, you do need to react to your business, but it can be done in a way more efficient way. And sometimes it's just that reminder of like, you're right, I'm like wasting so much time constantly refreshing the email, constantly checking the messages, constantly on Instagram. Like, if we can kind of compartmentalize things a little bit better. Because what I liked about this book a lot, which we can talk about this in more of like how to do it, but it is the whole strategic block thing and blocking pieces of your day to have that be your designated, like, get things done. Because again, if you own a business of any kind, marketing is not your full-time job unless you like have a marketing job at a corporate company. Like you're always going to have other things to do, customer service things, working on products, optimizing systems, building out funnels, doing CMAs. And this kind of just gives me it made me have that like almost like weight off my chest feeling of like, okay, this is how I can organize it better. But in the book, the goals they use as examples, it's one business goal, one personal goal, and two personal goals kind of. It was like a monetary goal. It was to lose 10 pounds and then to improve his relationship with his wife were like the fictional goals that he proposed. And what I found in our discussion of book club in our members group is a lot of people did have a personal goal. It was to be more present as a mom, to have more balance, to spend less time on their phones. And it like, that should be part of your goal, right? Because it's going to help you not only stay focused on the monetary one, but it's also going to help you stop wasting time on things that aren't moving the needle or that aren't, part of that really specific focused goal.
Yeah, because it's true. You can have all the greatest business goals in the world and you can meet all of them and become this like multi-millionaire, which is great. But if your life sucks, or if you're just not excited about it, or if you're not happy at home, like most people will tell you, like, it's not worth it. So you have to have business goals that align with your lifestyle goals and like your personal goals and vice versa. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't some areas of your life, like maybe for this first 12 weeks, you have to really buckle down on your business. And then maybe the next 12 weeks, you have to give yourself a little bit more grace and a little bit more time for your family or whatever. But there is a way to do both at the same time if you're intentional. And I think you have to be realistic. Like you have to know your capacity and what you're able to do.
Okay, but with all the goal setting stuff, I think that's obviously important, but without your vision, which this book talks about a lot, which I really, really liked, your goals aren't strong enough. Like you need a vision behind them. And I know like, beginning of the year, new year vibes, it's like make a vision board and all this stuff. And I never used to be about that, but like lately I've been really about that because it really does help reiterate your why. Like it really does help keep you motivated and on track sometimes when you're like, I would rather go do something else than work on this thing right now. Or I have some free time and I should be XYZ, or I should, dedicate 3 hours to get this thing done. But, I'd kind of rather go get a pedicure. Like it helps you be like, nope, like what is the bigger purpose for this? And the quote in the book says, if you find you're lacking passion in either your business or in a relationship, it's not a crisis of passion, it's a crisis of vision. And I think that's such a cool quote. Like I want to write that on like my computer or something, because if you can keep that in mind, like if you feel unmotivated about creating a reel, like that's probably normal. But do you feel motivated about making 3 times as much money because you're getting way more referrals and you're working with clients you love, and now you can move into that house in the neighborhood that has the pool that you really want because you want your kids to grow up there? Like you just get so much deeper with the vision. And I've talked about this before, but we bought my husband's farm a few years ago and we're going to build on it. And people always ask us, like every time I see anyone who I haven't seen for like longer than a month, they're like, have you guys talked about building yet? And I'm not like annoyed by the question, but I'm like, we bought that for a longer term vision. Like we invested a ton of money to get the farm in and of itself, like the land. Now we need to save money to build the house on it. Like we couldn't do all of it at one time, but we kind of did it for the future. Like, yes, we want to build there, but in the meantime, we need to live somewhere else. Right. But what's interesting is it kind of felt like a far off vision at first. And I would kind of sometimes feel like, oh, like we spent so much money doing this, like, and now we're not even living there yet. Like we need to get whatever. But like now lately we've been doing things like we mocked up like a floor plan of like what we want it to be. And we started like pulling out like the kitchen vibe, and like we're creating this vision. Like last night, my husband and I were doing this literally before bed. And it's been making it feel way more like in our grasp versus like, even if we don't live there for 5 years, it feels like it's like in reach, right? Like versus if you like at the beginning, we like bought the land. We're like, well, we don't have time for that right now. Like next, move on. It's like, you don't have it in your vision and it doesn't feel like it's close. But now I'm like feeling like it's getting closer, and like I had this very passionate why behind everything I'm doing in my business. Like I want to raise my kids on the farm. I want them to grow up with their friends at the farm. And like it's this full, like I do these visualization exercises, like if I can't sleep or if I have anxiety or like just because. And I like had this same vision in my brain of sitting at our kitchen island and there's a Christmas tree and the windows look out over our farm. And like the whole living room is like, it's from a Studio McGee home renovation or something that they did one time. And for whatever reason, like that kitchen setup living room is the image in my head when I picture this, but it gives me the vision. Like it gives me like a tangible visual thing that I can like lean into when I'm like, I have to get these funnels done or like whatever. You know what I mean?
Chelsea, I think that is so powerful. And I think that those kind of things like carry you through. And that's where I feel like sometimes I like in the book too, it talks about like your vision should scare you just a little bit. And an example to go off of that is like the house that my husband and I bought. Now, our house is nothing fancy at all, but we bought a home that was a newly built home. It was just a spec home. And it was a little like on the higher side of what we could afford at the time. And I remember thinking like, I hope we can do this. You know what I mean? But also knowing that we were looking at smaller houses for a while and like, the truth is we have 4 kids and I kept thinking like at some point in time we're going to have like 4 poster boards and 4 backpacks and all of that stuff all over the house. Like we're going to grow out of these so fast. So we kind of bought this house as like a leap of faith, but we bought it in a neighborhood that was like close to the schools and stuff. And I just remember thinking like my goal is for like summers to be like our house is the house where everyone's at. And kids are running in and out of the doors all the time, and they're using the sledding hills in the back in the winter, and you know everyone's on the trampoline, on all of these things. And it's so funny because now those things have all come to fruition. But because I had like that vision and that goal, even when times were like tighter, it was like, no, we're going to power through because this is what's going to happen. Now I sit in so much gratitude, and I feel like, you know, now our house is like 6 years old, and like there are houses that are like way cooler with like more awesome features than ours, but like that doesn't even like come to mind to me because all I'm thinking is like, oh my gosh, like I'm actually living this reality that I dreamt of. And I feel like it'll be the same for you too. Like, so for people who are listening, who are like setting their goals, whether it's their personal goals or their business goals or whatever, like if you really allow yourself to like sit in that and like really dream of it, really picture it. The truth is, in some form, it'll come to reality in some way, and it'll make you so much more grateful.
You know, even now we go out there all the time. So there's a farmhouse on the property that my mom and stepdad actually live in because for our like growing family, it just felt too small to like go there. So I was like, how can I get my mom to Oconomowoc? Would you guys want to live there? Like they rent it from us. So there's like this lane that goes from where the farmhouse area is, you've been down it, down to like out where we're going to build. And it's like all wooded and really pretty. And like right now it's all like snow. Well, the snow melted now. But last time I walked there, it was covered in snow and just so pretty with like the pine trees. And it's literally the song over the river and through the woods to grandmother's house will go from where our house will be to get to where my mom lives. And I like always wanted to live by my mom and like my mom and dad growing up and when I was older because I always wanted to be by my grandparents when I was little. So it's like part of this dream from really being like 5 years old and wishing I would wish on my birthday with the candles when I blew them out that we lived by my grandma and grandpa because we lived in a different state. Yeah. And we did eventually move to Wisconsin. So I got that wish. And now it's like the next step is like, okay, I want my kids to live really close to their grandparents. And so anyways, it's just like now when we go out there and we walk and like that's what gets me excited and like keeps that vision going where it's like, this is where we're going to live. And we're like showing Henry and like, you're going to be able to walk through the woods to grandma's. And it's just such a cool thing, even though we're not ready to even like break ground or anything. Like we're maybe in the phase now where like the next step would be, let's do some research on builders or let's talk to an architect or, you know, that is like more of like what the next step will be. But it's still like, you know, having that vision and reach. And I love how both of our stories are real estate and shows like I have so many pieces of content saved of people that I don't know whose reels I've come across who bought their dream home, bought their home that became their dream, that all the things. And it's just a reminder of selling real estate is such a big deal. Like it is such a big deal. It's people's lives, it's their families, it's their legacies. And I think remembering that and remembering that these aren't just numbers, these aren't just market statistics. Like you are selling people's lives. Like they are living where they are buying their homes, and like whether it's the community they live in, this is like going way off on a tangent, but it's so important to remember that, because if you're trying to connect with people through your marketing and you're not leaning into that piece of it, like you're missing so much opportunity to connect on that emotional level. Like Kayla, what is the people buy with their emotions and justify based on logic? Is that what it is?
Yeah, like they buy with their emotions. So if you lead with the emotion of like, this is your life that you're going to live and all of that, but then you like justify it logically by like, oh, it does make sense because financially it checks these boxes. And I think when we understand that, we actually did a whole post about this for our agents about how that makes them like better marketers for their sellers, because they're able to like lead with that emotion as they're promoting the listing and things like that. So yeah, it makes a big difference when you understand that. On page 79, it says, your professional vision often funds and enables your personal vision. Your vision should be big enough that it makes you feel at least a little bit uncomfortable. So I love that too, because I'm such a realist at heart, but it challenged me to dream a little bit bigger and like think of a life that might feel a little bit out of reach. Because again, even if I only land 85% and not at 100%, I'm still a heck of a lot closer to this life that I never even thought possible than if I would have really like played it safe. So I love the balance of like, before you even set your professional vision, before you even decide like, this is how many houses I want to sell in a year or anything like that, if you really think more about like, I want to be able to go on vacation with my family every year, or I want to be able to like take every Friday off, or like whatever that looks like for you. Once those things are clear and maybe even a little bit scary and a little bit like, could that even actually happen? Then I think that's where the motivation comes for like, I'm going to actually like complete these tasks and like take this really seriously and check in with myself every week, like the book encourages you to.
You know, I think some of the things too, like let's say you want to take Fridays off. I think you can even start living out some of those things sooner than later, like now. Like take one Friday off a month, but then make sure that you follow or like get through your goal list or your tactics list for the week, or your strategic block, you know, where you are getting everything done in that window of time, and then take the Friday off and like start letting yourself like feel that reward. Because again, you're an entrepreneur, like you run your own business, you get to decide these things. And like in deciding, some of the things you decide have to be you're getting the things done, right? But you also get to decide, I want to take Fridays off, or I'm going to take this vacation, and you don't have a boss to ask, and you get to kind of start almost reaping the reward from the get-go.
And I think a lot of that comes down to like the actual scheduling. Like it talks in the book about like creating blocks of time for yourself. So like one of them is like a strategic block, and that's like 3 hours of uninterrupted time with no phone calls or emails, where you're focusing just on like money-making activities. Now, I think for a lot of agents, money-making activities involves phone calls and emails. But decide what that looks like for you. Like whatever your goals are, figure out then what are those money-making activities that will lead you towards that goal, and like block off your time. And I will just say, like, that was my biggest complaint, I feel like, when I did real estate full-time, was I felt like I was always reacting to somebody else's problem, even if I had a system in place. Like even if I'd already sent an email that explained everything or whatever, I felt like the moment someone had a question, I had to drop everything. And it took me a little bit to learn, like, I'm allowed to have a life, and I'm allowed to get back with them in 30 minutes or whenever like was convenient for me, most of the time. And so I think if I would have like really implemented these blocks of time more widely, especially if, you know, going in it as a full-time agent, I feel like I would have avoided a lot of the reacting, and I would have taken a lot more like control of my business.
What I think as an agent is like why that happens is you feel like your schedule is somehow public, even though it's not public. No one can see your schedule. Like it's like you think they are almost like peeping through your window if you tell them you can't do something right now, or like you had plans to do your kid's soccer game and brunch on Saturday and someone wants to see a house. Well, maybe this is like a huge deal. These people have been looking forever. It popped up, blah, 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 and you make arrangements.
Yeah.
But also like the power of I have an appointment. No one knows your schedule. It is not a public schedule. So that is like the thing that literally kept my sanity as an agent, because I just started learning to say that. Like, I already have an appointment. I'm so sorry. What about 1:00? Like, what are they going to say? You're already showing a house to someone else. Or if it's that imperative that it happens at that moment on that day, then you can make arrangements for someone else to meet them there or whatever it might be. Like I got really good at being able to, not to like pat myself on the back, but like, you're not going to survive if you don't. Right. Like, it becomes a very miserable career if you let other people run you, but no one knows your schedule. And just remember that. So when you have something that you really want to get done, like, a modern example of like a marketing related thing might be you want to set up Flowdesk and you want to, after last week or 2 weeks ago, our episode about email marketing, you're like, I got to do this. I'm going to take advantage of email, and you want to set up Flowdesk and get all of your email, your database in there. You want to get your first email sent. You want to get like the brand look of it all established. You want to set up an automation, whatever. You are going to get that done in a strategic block, and you're going to block that off on Wednesday between 9 and 12. And if something comes up, which it 1000% will, you're going to say, I have an appointment. And then after Wednesday, that's going to get done. And now you have an email list, and now you have a way to communicate with people every single week or every single month without worrying about the algorithm, without worrying about any of the Instagram-y social media stuff. That's also can be part of your plan, but you have this thing that you are in control of, that you own, and it's done after one like day time block that you committed to. And like, it can happen with anything. It can be, if someone wants to get lunch with you, someone wants to meet for coffee, and a home inspection comes up. Me and Kayla are sending Slack messages back and forth. Like, it could be a million things that distract you from that thing. But like, you put the blinders on, you put your phone on do not disturb. Everyone will survive for 3 hours. You get the task done, and now you've moved a humongous amount forward in your business, which is going to, again, what's your vision? What's a bigger goal? What did you want to do? You want to go to Disney this year, like with your family? Well, that's that much closer now that you're staying in front of your sphere every single week with an email.
I remember thinking to myself, no one else, this actually came down to a summer with my kids when I felt like technology was like overrunning our lives. And I remember just waking up and thinking, there is no one else in the world who has woken up this morning concerned about the state of my kids' mental health. Like, no one else is thinking about how much time my kids are spending on things. And it's up to like my husband and I, like, we were the only ones that had the power or like that cared enough to do something about it. And as you're talking about like your vision and your goals, I'll just tell you, like, you are the only one who cares about your goals like you do. Like, no one else in the world is waking up in the day thinking to themselves, like, how can I help Chelsea reach her goal? It's on you. And so if you're not going to fight for that, if you're not going to fight for your dream and your vision and the time that it takes to get there, no one else will. And it's going to just pass you by. So I think that's where that accountability and like taking yourself seriously as an entrepreneur, as a businesswoman, as a realtor, like, it's all up to you. We can give you all this advice. You can tune in every Tuesday. We'd love to have you. But if you're not going to take that ownership, like, nothing's going to change for you.
This reminds me though of how we teach agents to build better businesses by attracting better fit clients, because your whole lifestyle comes down to who you're working with and how your business is growing and the referrals you're getting. And through Modern Agent, like, what the bigger piece is that I don't think we talk about enough is I want you as an agent to build a better business by attracting better fit clients, just like I want to attract better fit members who are going to get results, who are going to add a ton of value to our community, who are going to like be able to engage with and help and learn from all the other members. And like with you and attracting clients, and I think about the scheduling and no one else caring about your goals, the first thing I thought of as you're saying that is like the cold leads. Like, none of them care about anything. And not that your clients should have to know like, oh, but I have like soccer practice. Like, you don't even need to tell your clients that. You make your own schedule. You set that appointment. It is what it is. But it's a lot harder to do it with cold leads than it is to do with people who are like cannot wait to work with you, where you are hands down their choice, when you are their real estate go-to girl, it eliminates like a ton of those issues and a ton of the reactionary business. And it's not 100% in your control necessarily, but you can control a lot more of it when you're operating from a place of warm leads and referrals than it is from cold leads and like apologetically selling, begging for business style tactics, because you're not wasting your time convincing someone you're the right choice for them. They've already decided that 6 months ago because they found you on social media or because they read your emails.
Yep.
And that makes such a big difference. And like, so when we say it's not just about content, it's not just about Instagram, it's not just about whatever, like it's not, it's about the business you're building as a result. And that's why I'm like so excited about this book for our members too, because again, it's just taking things more seriously. It's up leveling what you're already doing. It's being excited about social media, excited about your marketing, excited about email, whatever it is in your 12-week plan that you're then going to make sure you're getting done because your vision is big enough and because you want that better business, because you don't want the like reactionary crappy clients
here
anymore.
Today, gone tomorrow. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and that's why I like to like, I felt like so much of this book just aligned with our values too. Even the when it talked about like the buffer blocks and the breakout blocks, the buffer blocks were more just like, okay, that's your time to actually be checking your email, to be responding to things, sending the documents, all of that. Which again, there's gonna be some days that are heavier on that than others, but you're allowed to check your email twice a day. Like, you're allowed to make that decision.
But I like when you do kind of assign it because you spend less time doing it. If I'm like, oh, I'm going to check my email right now, I'll be doing random stuff for 3 hours before I know it. And if I give myself a 40-minute timer and it goes off and I'm like more quickly trying to get through things. I'm not getting sidetracked on Instagram. I'm not getting sidetracked in my text messages or reading an article about Bravo or Summer House or what. Like I'm like focused, and
which makes you a better agent, right?
Yes.
Like it makes you more present for your clients. It'll actually allow you to take on more clientele because you are queen at managing your time. And it also goes along with like the breakout blocks that he talked about, which are like doing something for yourself that has technically nothing to do with business, but like it feels very fulfilling, which is like so modern agent coded because I'm like, yeah, that's called your personal brand. Like that's called having a life and like romanticizing your life and starting book club and doing all of those things because like that's not fluff. That actually like makes you a more fulfilled human being. It gives you that balance of like, okay, it can't be all work and no play. Like if there's no play, there's no life to your brand. There's no depth to your brand. And then when you go to the cocktail party, you literally have nothing else to offer. Like, and maybe you felt that way before. Like maybe you have felt like someone said like, well, what do you like to do for fun? And you literally can't give an answer because you don't remember the last time you'd scheduled fun. Schedule some fun, even if it's every other week. But like the book talks about, take 3 hours where you are going to do something just for yourself. So whether that's going out and just window shopping or getting a pedicure, having lunch with some friends, whatever. And what's really cool is you can do this in a totally like unplugged way, which we're all about like unplugging as well. But you can also be strategic with this and document these little moments as you are out having fun and living your life. And even if you only do that once a month, you just got 3 hours worth of content that you can like sprinkle throughout your content throughout the month, that you can sprinkle throughout day in the life reels, all of those things. So really like you're still making a business investment, even if you're just trying to do something for yourself.
Even if it's sitting down and reading a book, like a fiction book or watching a fiction movie. Yeah. Like I also always, every time I let myself do something like that, like sometimes I feel guilty. Like I texted my friend Allie once and I said, do you ever feel guilty when you're reading because you're literally sitting down, not accomplishing anything? Like, but reading is so good for your brain and it's so good for you. But every time I read or every time I watch a movie, I like leave more creatively like charged or more, you can like feel the change in your body unless you're watching like a draining argumentative reality show. Yeah. But like if you're watching like a good movie or you're watching like Wicked or you're watching a good show or you're reading a good book, like there's going to be something in there that even if you don't maybe have like a takeaway to turn it into an email because you're crazy like me, but you just feel kind of like, I feel kind of recharged. Like I didn't look at my phone for the last 3 hours. I just
everyone survived. Like
yeah, everything is okay.
Yeah.
I think it's such a good reminder. And I like that they like have you schedule it. Like they literally want you to schedule the 3-hour fun block into your day.
During the workday too, not like on a Friday night, but they're telling you like during the week, schedule this block of time to do something fun for yourself. I think it's so genius, especially because real estate is such a relational like career. Take the time to go have lunch with some friends. Like if you have lunch with your friends at least once a month, you're going to be staying top of mind. Like, and you're going to be out in local restaurants in your local community. People are going to be seeing you. And yes, it might not be a client consult, but they're still going to be asking you like, how's your job? How's the market? You know, and like just the practice of those things. All of it is like, it's so good. Like, you know, it always goes back to that quote, like you can't pour from an empty cup. And I think that it's just so true. I think there are times when you have to put your head down and get your work done, right? There are going to be times where it's a lot more work than play. But if you're not making any time for yourself, if you're not making any time for your brand building or just like for life building, like you're going to end up maybe with a bunch of clients, but no one that like cares about you at the end of the day. Like no one that's texting you funny things because they're thinking of you, because they're not thinking of you in real life, you know, because you haven't stayed present. So
in the book, it talks about how on average we waste 2 hours a day of work. So like, it's not even that. Like if you're probably wasting so much time if you're not working in these blocks. Like I know that I do.
Yeah.
And you know, giving yourself 3 hours to do something fun, or like I think of a friend of ours, he golfs a lot in the summer, and I don't know his exact percentages, but I would guess that 90% of his business comes from the relationships he has through golfing. Yeah. So yes, he's golfing a lot in the summer, but he wouldn't have like all the referrals he's getting if he wasn't golfing. So it's like, it just makes sense, right? And that's kind of how our business is. Whereas like if he wasn't golfing and he's sitting at home, like, oh, what could I do to get business? Or like, maybe I should cold call, or maybe I should do this. And then like, maybe he's spending like an hour every time he gets a listing because he has no systems in place. He has no, like you just waste so much time. It's like, how can we use the 12-week year to get way more efficient, get things crossed off the list, get things actually done, get the needle moving forward. And that's why I like how like the goals are broken up. Like maybe one goal is systems related so that you aren't reinventing the wheel every single other day when someone reaches out. Or like for us, we could make our member onboarding way better so that we get a lot of less repeat questions and people already feel supported without having to ask certain things. Like we could dig in and see like, how could we save some time here? Because again, all those things add up and you're wasting a ton of time. So instead, like build them into your 12 weeks, spend the 3 hours doing something fun like golfing or getting your nails done or going to the spa. I mean, strike up a conversation with your facialist. Like they probably know someone moving too, you know, like it's like you don't have to go golfing to make that happen. Right. We all have our own things. But the point is just sitting in this like hustle mentality doesn't really work quite as well as people think, because you only have so much capacity until you burn out. So you're probably wasting time if you're never giving yourself a break. Okay, let's talk about the emotional cycle of change before we wrap up, because this is kind of bringing it all together so that you don't give up, because that is pretty much the most important part, right? Like the execution, 85% of this getting checked off, like getting done. I like put in our book club notes, like go-to girls get 85% of things done, because that's where you're going to see the needle move, even if it's not 100, which is kind of like a very reassuring thought. Like you don't need an A+, you just need to get things going, right? Yep. So the emotional cycle of change, they have a graph in the book. This is actually in chapter 12, so it's pretty like late in the book. But I'm using this so much for myself right now. So phase 1 is uninformed optimism. So what example do you want to give for this? Like,
I mean, I think any idea that you maybe have gotten from this podcast so far, whether it has been to start an email list or to do a day in the life reel or to hone in on your personal brand, like you might hear an idea and you might think like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I need to do. Like, that's what I've been looking for, whatever. So you turn the episode off excited. Like you're like, everything's different now. Everything's changed. But then phase 2
I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
And this is where you probably have that vision. Like you can, you know, like in the before and after in a movie, like when the girl gets the makeover and they like walk out looking amazing, like just go with it. Jennifer Aniston. It's my favorite. like that's like what you're envisioning. You're envisioning that after, when you're in phase 1 of the uninformed optimism, like I am famous on Instagram.
Yeah.
Like I look like my account looks amazing. I'm getting tons of referrals. But then you kind of slide down the curve to phase 2. And maybe Kayla will put this on the YouTube video.
Yeah.
Phase 2 is informed pessimism. So now you like started the process, like you started, maybe you did a day in the life reel, maybe you sent an email, you bought Flowdesk, you signed up for Flowdesk, and now you're starting to think like, well, I don't know, like, is this really going to work? Like, is this, maybe this is a waste of time. Like I should probably, buy leads or like do something that's going to turn over right away, like tomorrow. Yeah. And I don't know that I really need to spend my time here. It feels fluffy. Like I'm not sure. Yeah. So you're starting to like question the process.
Yeah. As the shine has worn off. It's not shiny anymore. And you start to realize like as much of a great idea that it was, it also means it's hard work. And so you're like, oh, well, it's not a quick fix.
Here's where the sticking to the plan is so critical, because the next phase is phase 3. It's the valley of despair. So now you're like, screw it. I worked really hard to get these things done and I don't see any payoff yet. All I can think about right now is my health journey, because I started working with a gut specialist in January and I'm in the valley of despair. I think I'm starting to come out of it, but I've been in it for a couple of weeks because I've been putting in the work. I'm talking like changed every single thing I'm doing, like 100%. And I feel like this morning, yesterday I was like crying. This morning I wake up and I like felt so good. And I was like, maybe I just turned a corner. Maybe I'm like starting to crawl out of the valley of despair. But the valley of despair is like where you're going to give up because you're like, you're not willing to continue through the mud. Like you're not continuing through like the hard weeds part of it where the payoff isn't happening. You're putting all the work in and you're not seeing any return yet. Like that's the valley of despair. And it's really hard. Like that's where everyone is giving up.
Well, the valley of despair is full of lies too, because it's where you start telling yourself it wasn't so bad before. Like, I felt fine before, or I wasn't that tired, or I wasn't that miserable all the time. For marketing, it's like, well, I still got clients without an email list. Like, I can still keep going, and the price of changing feels way more expensive than what you originally thought that it was going to. But, like what you said, the beauty of it is if you can just get over the hump. Like, it says, like, when you are in the valley of despair, you're at a crossroads between like going back to exactly how things were before or completely skyrocketing your goal. Like you are right on the edge of getting exactly where you want to go.
I know this isn't marketing, but last night I was like in such a bad mood and I was like, I should just have a glass of wine. What does it matter? Like it's been 2 months. Like I'll just have a glass of wine and relax. Well, I did not have one.
Good for you.
And I woke up and I felt so good. And I was like, if I would have had one, it would have pushed me back the other direction, because I probably would have woken up with like a little bit of a headache. I haven't had it in a while, and I'm not giving up drinking, but it's this healing journey that I'm on right now. And I would have gone backwards and I never would have had the moment that I had this morning where it's almost like God or something was like, you made the right choice. Yeah. Here's a little win. Not that everything's immediately solved today, but I did get like a glimmer of like, okay, I feel a little bit better. Like this is kind of starting to work. And I have a long ways to go, but like it's the same thing. I love relating health to marketing because it's one of those things that is a long-term commitment. Like it's the long game. You're never going to get healthy overnight. You're never going to get in shape overnight. You're never going to have an amazing business overnight. And I don't want the kind of business that would work overnight. Right. Like that business isn't going to sustain us for the long term without a lot of other hurdles.
It reminds me, we had a member recently in the group talk about how she's in the middle of this transaction right now that's just not going well. Like there's been a lot of like obstacles and stuff that have come up that have been really difficult. But she said in the midst of it, like in the midst of her total frustration and feeling like, what am I doing? She had a client reach out through one of her systems, I think it was a lead magnet or something that they requested and like wanted to join and
on her website, I think.
Yeah. And they were excited to work with her. And so her response in the group was just like, okay, it does work. Like stick with it. Cause even when there are things that are hard about this, when you start putting in the work, things are like your business is basically going to be working for you. Like all of these systems are going to make getting clients easier. So when you can give that one client all of your attention because of everything that's going on, knowing full well others are ready and waiting for you and like excited to work with you. So I feel like that's kind of like, that's what I picture of like the valley of despair. Like, yes, you're right there, but that client is about ready to reach out to you. Like, just stick with it.
Someone commented and said it's like a wink from the universe. That's like a little like nudge, like keep going, you're doing the right thing. And the person that reached out to her brought up the fact that she always goes to her favorite coffee shop, which is also their favorite coffee shop. So like they had this like, not only did she reach out, she's been following her on Instagram, completely unknown to Natalie, who said this. Like, she had no idea she was watching her or following her or seeing her content until that little wink from the universe came. And she was like, oh my God, like, here it is.
Yep.
So
I love that.
We're out of the valley of despair. You made it out of that valley. So then you start going back up the hill, which is amazing. And you're going to phase 4, which is informed optimism. So now it's like a flip of the uninformed optimism, where now you're like, okay, the wing from the universe. Okay, this is, I'm starting to see some things. Some things are working. Some things are happening. Like the needle's moving. Like I'm seeing something for myself, whether it's in the form of someone reaching out. It could be a DM. It could be someone responding to your email. It could be a referral. Like it could be you walk into a store in your little downtown and someone recognizes you and says like, oh my gosh, you're the one who always is at that coffee shop. Like anything like that is a little teeny, like, this is working. Yep. This is happening. Things are moving in the right direction. So now you have informed optimism.
Yeah. Yeah, the book actually says at this stage, your likelihood of success is much higher. The benefits of your actions are starting to bear fruit, and the costs of change are lessened because your new thoughts and actions are becoming more routine. The key at this stage is not to stop, which leads you to phase 5, which is success and fulfillment. It's the final stage, and at this final stage, the benefits of your new behaviors are fully experienced. The costs of change are virtually gone. And then it says every time you complete the cycle, you build not only your capacity, but also your confidence, which is like what we really love here. So what I think is so cool about this is no matter what your goals are, whether they're like personal, business related, you want to get 1 million clients, you want to get systems set up, whatever that looks like for you, you're going to go through this. Like, it's just a matter, I mean, we see it all the time with people when they join Modern Agent. They start with like, oh my gosh, all this content, like this is so great. And then they're like, oh, I'm not sure what my personal brand is. And then it's, oh, I feel like, I was still getting clients before I had a personal brand, or I was still getting clients before I did these things, but
I don't really need one.
Yeah. But then when they stick with it, then they're like, oh, wait a minute. Like, I had a client just reach out because she also loved the coffee shop. Or I had someone else, say like, hey, I had to tell my friend about you because she loves dogs too. Like, you start to get those little wins, and then you're going to start over. Like, it's a never ending thing. But I think when we're aware of the price of change, when we're aware of what that will do to our emotions as we're making marketing decisions, as we're making business decisions, as we're telling people, you know what, I can't because I have an appointment or whatever, which, by the way, that whole thing right there, I don't know if I said this already, but like that's like the perfect reason not to post things in real time and to take the time to curate your content just a little bit, not perfectly, because then you're not like, oh, I have an appointment, and then you're posting photos from like your soccer game, but like you're taking the time to be more intentional. I mean, all of this just works so well together. And I feel like there's other business books I've read where I think this part is great, this part I don't like, or this part whatever. I felt like this entire book was so on brand for Modern Agent. And yes, there has to be some adjustments. I mean, I feel like the whole, like, he encourages you to lay out a whole schedule. And I remember that first week of my whole schedule, my kids were sick. Like, it just didn't work for me. But I still made more progress than what I would have the week before, because I still had somewhat of a plan, and I still like got closer to that 85%.
My grandpa wrote this in my graduation card, and it's like a slogan or whatever. He said, shoot for the moon. Even if you miss, you'll land among the stars. And that's really what that is. And, like, that's what the 85% is. You're not going to hit the moon, but you're going to hit the stars.
I love it. I love it so much. What should we challenge our listeners to do with all of this information today?
I honestly think after talking about all of this is actually a quote from the book, but you want to predict your career path and future income, look at the actions you take each business day. Your actions tell the story. I think I would start with my vision. Like whether it's writing it down, it's building a secret Pinterest board and searching the images that make up that vision. It's writing down those goals and just starting by getting really crystal clear on that big picture vision. And if you get the book, they map out like how you can write it out in like a 3-year goal and a 5-year and everything. But just start with like, what is my bigger why? Like that little bit of like this, I feel a little uncomfortable about this goal. Like, I don't know if this is really possible, but I'm going to make this my goal anyways. And I would start with the vision before anything else.
And then, once you are clear on that, starting with some kind of scorecard that kind of helps you lead towards that. And I know like as much as what this discussion is wrapping up, like for us, I know for our whole goal for like Modern Agent is to continue this. So like we've talked about like how can we come up with like scorecards for people for their goals and like really help them. That way when you get the monthly content, you're not just like, oh, I have to post all of this stuff, but you're like, nope, these are the ones that align with my goals and you know exactly what to choose. So I'm excited to continue working on that too, because I feel like as more members get more 12-week year focused, they're going to be seeing more results. They're going to be having more wins. They're going to have like more of those like New Year's moments like you talked about. So yeah, I think this is super fantastic. And I'm excited to hear like what your goals are, like what your vision is. Like if that's something that you're sharing, we would love to hear it. You can tag us or you can DM us. We would love to hear it and like root for you because we all need someone to cheer us on.
I think if you want to take that vision one step further for the homework assignment too, the book also talks a lot about an ideal week. And this is kind of like before you probably get to, I can't remember for sure now, but before you pick like your strategic block of time and all those things, your buffer block, schedule a buffer block. But kind of just mapping out like what would my week look like ideally without any interruptions, causing that to not work. And just kind of having that vision too for like, what is your week to week in a nutshell. Obviously things are always different, but I think starting there would be really helpful. And then you can from there nail down what's on my scorecard. What do I need to check off every single week to get closer to that goal in the next 12? Yeah. I have one more quick announcement. Yes. So we kind of did this book club as like a little extra, like I really wanted to go through the 12-week year. And then we had someone post in our Facebook group and they're like, what's next month's book? And I was like, oh, I don't know if I can do this every month, but I love the excitement. So I am picking another book. We're going to discuss this one in April in our members group, but I'm not sure if we'll do a podcast probably because I love this book. But Building a Story Brand 2.0 by Donald Miller is all about clarifying your message so customers will listen, meaning if you take that to your marketing, like it will make your marketing so much more effective and it's so exciting. So we will be talking more about that soon, but that is our next book club book. We will be discussing in April. And if you want to join in on that, you can join our community at Modern Agent Social Club and we would love to have you. And I think that's it for today. This was so fun, Kayla.
So fun.
All right. We'll see you guys next Tuesday. I'm so glad we got to hang out today. If you're as sad as I am that our time is up, I've got good news. There are a couple of different ways we can keep the conversation going.
First, follow us on Instagram at Modern Agent Marketing Girls and introduce yourself in the DMs. Also, we always have a free Modern Agent resource available, so check out today's show notes for the goods.
And finally, hang out with other go-to real estate girls like you and finally create a marketing plan that works when you join Modern Agent Social Club. All the details are in today's notes.
XOXO, the Marketing Girls.